Hey there, this is Dino Katsimetis from the Way Podcast and Ethos Lending, and I'm super excited because, as you guys all know, I'm bringing on some of the most successful loan officers across the country, and I'm asking them what they did to become successful. And it's not just how do you get more loans, but I'm talking about like work-life balance. I'm talking about investments. I'm talking about everything that has to do with a well-rounded life. So my good friend here, Wally Elibiary. Wally, did I pronounce that right?
Close. There's a B in there. So Wally Elibiary.
Well, I want to introduce Wally to everybody out here. Most of you guys probably already know him because he is one of the greatest loan officers in the United States and is just truly just a genius when it comes to creating business. Like I have seen you decide to snap your fingers and just create something out of nothing. So I want to get all of this out today so everybody can learn from you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And for the record, you pronounced my last name a little bit better than Dave Savage, which is a really good friend of mine. But Dave pronounces it as Wally Elibiary. I'm like, there's not a D in there. But, I think it's one of these things that I'll just go by Wally. It'll make it so much easier. But no, man, I think I've enjoyed our friendship. I've enjoyed our mentorship over the years. And then I think, I don't remember one time I've ever seen you have a bad day. And I'm really grateful for your transparency and your authenticity in our masterminds that we've had in the past. And man, I was super excited to be on your show.
Well, thank you. So Wally, here's the whole gist of how this whole thing's going to break down. I want to know who you are today, both personally and professionally. And then when we're done with that, I want to go back to day one when you decided to get into this crazy mortgage business, and then walk through your journey back to today again, hitting all the big major milestones that you consider important into making you who you are today.
All right. So who am I today? I think, a God-loving man for sure. Number one. I think also a husband, a father. Mortgage loan officer is kind of a little bit further down on the list of roles, I guess. So I've been in the mortgage retail space for, I guess, 26 years now in the business. I started back in 1999. And my first 24 years of my career was as a retail loan officer or a retail producing branch manager at a retail company. Roughly almost a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I launched Aspire Mortgage Advisors. I was a broker, and now as of roughly 6 months ago, we're actually a brokerage. So we have our own in-house processing, in-house closing, wholesale line. And it's super cool about it when you build a mortgage business that has all these bells and whistles about the client concierge team, and then you build the business that has the 6-lane highway in it, but you work for a company. Then you write the book 24/7 Mindset. And then what's super cool about that is now everything's infused into the mortgage company. So the essence of Aspire Mortgage Advisors, the culture of Aspire Mortgage Advisors is focused on database, how to turn your database into your data bank. And then the prospecting tool of Aspire is 100% of building a 6-lane highway where you become a multiplier loan officer. So being the president and founder of Aspire, it's been a great journey of bringing what made me successful as a loan officer, which made me successful as a team leader, and now infusing that into a culture of a company and bringing to life everything that I teach in my book, 24/7 Mindset, to actually become the culture of a mortgage company.
That's great. And I know the book has been a big piece of your life here in the last, 2 years probably?
Yeah, it was about a year and a half.
Okay. First of all, how long did it take you to write it?
Personally, I'd probably say 4 to 5 years. Once I hired a ghost editor and a coach to actually help me write it, I think we were done within 6 months.
Awesome. And, I'm going to be pulling out little nuggets from everything you say all the time, just so people can not glance over something that I think is important. So for all you guys, coaching, right? Wally just said he hired a coach, somebody that can help him write it. And I think that's super valuable because I know as a whole, Wally is a huge believer in coaching, in mentorship, and having somebody that knows how to do something better than he does, right? So if you're going to learn, success leaves behind clues. If you're going to learn, you might as well learn from somebody that's successful at something. And I think just something as simple as that. Here's Wally with a ton of experience, has been living this mortgage lifestyle forever and wants to teach everybody how to do it, but he's got a roadblock, right? He's not really a writer. He knows how to get loans, but maybe he doesn't know how to write as well. So here he goes and hires somebody. And lesson number one, I would say that's something we should all learn from, because quite honestly, you hire somebody that knows how to do something better than you, you're going to achieve that goal a lot faster. So thanks, Wally, for that.
I would tailgate to that and say, when you hire a coach, you're getting to avoid all their mistakes. And when you hire a coach, you're learning the steps that work instead of figuring out the steps that don't work. I mean, to me, it was one of these things, especially writing the book, when the coach sits down and says, "Hey, we're gonna meet every Monday at 4 p.m. and we met every Monday at 4 p.m. for like 6 months, but we're gonna meet for an hour every single week, and we're gonna spend probably the first 4 months of the 6 months on the table of context." I'm like,
wow,
we're going to spend 4 months out of the first 6 months on the table of contents? Are you serious? And looking back at it, the book was so much easier to write and super easy to write when we built the foundation of the table of context, because everything else fell into place very smoothly, very easily, and it flowed really well. Where I feel like most loan officers go out there and try to do what they do best versus do it the best way they can do it, instead of learning the best way it can be done. That was me learning the best way it can be done instead of me just simply trying to do my best.
You have a great family, been married for a long time, which right there in itself tells me you're successful, because that's not an easy thing for a lot of people, especially in our industry. And you have two amazing young boys, and I have to know, have they overtaken you?
You mean in golf?
In golf.
Yeah, so Braden, we call him Braden the Brave. He's 19 now. He's a freshman at Arkansas. And then Alexander's 17, and he's a senior in high school. So Braden, he beat me the first time playing golf when he was 16. And he had tried for many, many years, and we tied many a times. But what was comical is I was the one that was tearing up on the 18th green, so proud of him of finally beating his father. But no, we've had a great friendship. He came home for college last weekend for Thanksgiving, and it was super cool. I mean, we golfed probably three, 4 times together. And, you know, when you can get your children off their phone for 4 or 5 hours of straight time, it's pretty darn special.
I love it. All right, so let's go back to day one, Wally. Why did you decide to get into the mortgage business, and how?
Well, I just graduated high school, and I sold cars for the first 6 months right after high school. So I was 17, 18 years old. And I sold cars, and there's in the car sales, there's something called bell to bell. So it's like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it is 6 days a week. And I was making great money. I was making 4, 5, 6 grand a month. Some months I'd make like 7, 8, 10 grand a month. And this dude rolls up, but I'm working like 80 hours a week. This dude rolls up in a Mazda Miata. His name is Kurt Gonzalez. Rolls up in a Mazda Miata. This is 1999. And he's got this great tan. He doesn't even have a shirt on. Got his golf clubs in the passenger seat. Gets out and he goes, "Hey man, I want to buy a Jeep." And he comes up to me. Then he had flip flops on. The dude was like literally barefoot. And like, "Hey, I got cash. I'm just gonna buy a Jeep." Anyway, long story short, I sell him a Jeep. I'm like, "What do you do? I mean, you look halfway homeless, halfway like we're in Dallas. It's not like you're a beach bum." And he goes, "I'm a loan officer, man. I'm making like 20, 25 grand a month after month. I'm doing 1 or 2 loans a month." I'm like, 1 or 2 loans? That doesn't sound right. But back then in 1999, there's a term called overage. and you can make that much per loan. But we're not allowed to say that word anymore. But I just like, dude, I got to become your assistant and hire me, and I'll work for free for the first like 6 months, and he wouldn't hire me. So I went out there and found a mortgage company that would give me a chance at 19 years old. It became a loan officer assistant, and then it was like a call center space. And then from the call center space, it jumped up and it grew to being a loan officer to a retail company. Like I'll probably say when I was like 21, 22 years old. And then it started to grow and scale from there. I didn't get into leadership until I think I was like 36, 37 as a branch manager. But I always worked, one thing I really enjoyed a ton is problem solving and puzzle pieces, understanding the ability to be able to take something that's really complicated for most people and then rebuilding it in my head and creating bite-sized pieces. And I think I learned at a younger age professionally that building systems and models makes your business really, really scalable, very, very efficient, and it's extremely profitable.
Did all of this come naturally to you at that age?
I'd say people came naturally to me. If I don't know, I know this might be a good thing or a bad thing, but selling cars is like trying to ask every girl on earth on a first date, and you get so many no's. And they already have a perception of you that is like not a good perception. So you've got to overcome that, and you've got to frame things so well, and the ability to be able to handle objections. I learned that at a young age. I only sold cars for 6 months, and being able to handle that. To me, I think that got me ready for the mortgage business, and that got me ready for being able to, a loan officer going after realtor relationships and getting told no, no, and no. So just not having fear of rejection. I think there's an adage: would you rather have fear of failure or fear of success? I was always had fear of failure, definitely not fear of success.
Just for cliche purposes, was it used cars?
No, it was new. It was like new Jeep Wranglers, Jeep in a Hyundai shop, I think it was.
All right. So how long did it take you before you could replace the income you were making as a car salesman?
Oh, dude. I mean, my first year in mortgage, I broke 6 figures. I was definitely not the smartest working person, but I was definitely the hardest working person in every room I ever walked into. I would door knock apartments. Back then, you can do an 80-20 loan, 100% financing. And I would literally door knock apartments, ask them, what do you guys pay for rent? If I can help you purchase a house, do 100% financing, and pay the same that you're paying right now for rent or less, would you like to fill out a loan application? And I would door knock apartment after apartment after apartment after apartment after apartment after apartment. And if you remember back in 99, this big refi boom, rates went from 11% to like 9.5%. And it's comical when I hear people say how difficult times are right now at 6 or 7%. But there's big refi boom from 11% to 9%. And I remember also my first half of the day I had it time blocked of door knocking apartment complexes. The second half of the day and early part of the evening, I would door knock houses for the sake of putting flyers there for cash out loans and debt consolidation loans and home equity loans and because then also refinance options. So I was a grinder at a young age, trying to get my foot in the door in mortgage. Obviously, as I'm now 46 years old, I've learned how to be the hardest working, smartest working person in the room, not just the hardest working person in the room.
So this was all in your first year you were doing door knocking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say I door knocked for probably the good first 3.5, almost 4 years, until I was probably doing $1.5 million to $2 million a month. I would consistently be door knocking. And it took me about 3.5, 4 years to understand the power of a referral to a realtor and how they can send you referrals. And also you got to remember at that early age, I mean, you're making a ton of mistakes on loans. So I wanted to go cut my teeth and make all my mistakes on people that I door knocked or versus going and making my mistakes with realtor relationships.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to transition. So You started off, you said, as a call center environment, um, which obviously leads are provided and you're hammering phones and all that. But then you went out and door knocked. Were you at the same company and just decided to go do this on your own? Or did you already switch companies and kind of make that transition?
No, I switched companies and made that transition. It's called Alpha Mortgage USA. They're definitely not in business anymore, but it was, I was only there for like maybe 4.5, 5 months. And I realized pretty quickly, I mean, it was a shop of a mortgage company. And it was like, where, they have Section 32 addendums to loan applications. Section 32 is where like you got more than 10 points on a loan. So they weren't even like B and C paper. They were like D and F paper type of calls. And I realized like when you're consistently having to give out double digit rates to clients and charge them all these points, that wasn't scalable. I learned pretty darn quickly that where I was there to cut my teeth and get my license, but I was definitely not going to end my career at a call center.
And then let's now go to all of this door knocking, house knocking, buyers and cash out refinances, which I love. All right, two separate things. So a lot of loan officers will struggle because they don't have enough time in the day to do everything. And they're always trying to do everything themselves, right? Like, I know for me, the second I finally stepped out and hired somebody to be my own personal processor, my business doubled, right? And then I hired somebody to be my personal assistant, my business doubled again. At this stage, you're out door knocking. Were you doing that during business hours, outside of business hours? How were you managing all that? And then when was the first breakthrough when you actually were able to hire somebody or do something to help you increase your production that wasn't just on your hands?
I mean, you got to remember, I was a single dude in my late teens, early 20s. So I had all night long and I had all weekend long. So it was prospecting, door knocking apartment complexes for 3 to 4 hours in the morning, grabbing lunch, the door knocking houses 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon. Then and back then you do paper loan applications. I mean, back then you'd have your credit reports faxed to you. So it wasn't like I had to rush back to the office and get in front of my computer. It was like, it was a paper loan application with a credit report being faxed to you. So, I could do that during the evening. That wasn't a problem going through those applications in the evening. So to me, I try to have as many, I still do today. I mean, obviously you and I you and I both share a great mentor in Todd Duncan over the years. And Todd, taught us, if you remember, his red time, yellow time, and green time. And I learned pretty darn quickly in my early 20s how important green time was, how important dollar productive activities were, and the ability to be able to laser focus on those dollar productive activities first, then handle all the other stuff that you still need to do with your day. But to answer your question, I mean, it was 6, 7, 8 hours of dollar productive activities. Then I was doing the admin, loan officer, assistant roles at night, and or over the weekend. Then it transpired to your second question, I believe, was when did I hire my first piece of leverage? And the first leverage I had was a loan officer assistant in 2013. So, I mean, you fast forward another, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 years, that it wasn't until 2013 that I hired my first loan officer assistant, and I can share why, and how that transition went. But yeah, it took me a very long time, unfortunately, to self-discover that if I was everything to everyone, I became nothing to myself.
Yeah, I love that saying. I love it. And let's call it, that stage, right, when you hired somebody, what was your volume at that point? Like what made you get to that point, right? Because there's usually a pain point that is caused.
Yeah. So 2012, I did $45 million in loans by myself. And literally, I originated a loan. I disclosed the loan. I set up the loan, meaning like did all the order outs. And then I had a processor. But then I'd go to every closing.
I want to just emphasize something for all my California friends out there. That's a shit ton of volume.
It is.
Because Wally's from Texas back when Texas wasn't that expensive.
I bet my average loan amount was probably 180,000, whatever that unit's volume. Somebody smart tell us 45 million divided by 180,000. Yeah, it's a little bit different now. But so at that time frame, 2012, we went to $45 million completely all by myself, no support. We go to Sales Mastery, Todd Duncan's event in, I think it was like October or so. And Todd pulls me up on stage and he's giving me all these accolades and he's celebrating me. And I remember grabbing the mic and just, feeling like a phony, feeling like a fraud because, 2 weeks before that, I was at my house and we're about to go on a family vacation to Disneyland. And, my youngest son, Alexander, he was in the front foyer and he had his little Mickey Mouse ears on. And I'm walking out of the bedroom and I'm on the phone. I'm like, hey, hold on, I'm on the phone. Of course, I'm on the phone. But I get off the phone and Alex, he's 5 years old at the time. He looks over to me. He goes, oh, Dad, you're coming with us? Here's my 5-year-old that was so surprised that his father was going on a family vacation at Disneyland with the family. Like, how pathetic is that? How I miss more dinners than I ever made. I miss more sporting activities than I ever was able to make because the business ran me. I did not run the business, but I was on all these stages and all these shows and people were celebrating me right and left. But when I say I was everything to everyone else that thought I was great, I was nothing to myself and I was nothing to my family. And I remember coming back from that Sales Mastery thinking like, something's got to change. Something's got to be different. I've got to get leverage. I've got to be able to, either I've got to understand this is the max amount of income I'm ever going to make in my whole entire career, which I really struggled with, or there's got to be a way to work smarter, not harder. So again, I hired another coach to help me grow and focus on leverage. But then 2012 was 45 million. 2013, once I hired my first assistant, we went down to 36 million. So it was less in volume, but you've got to go back. It's like pulling an arrow. You got to go back to go forward. And then the next year in 2000, so from 36 million to 2014, next year in 2015 was over $81 million in fundings. From 36 million to 81 million, because now I had 2 loan officer assistants. And after that, the year after in 2016, it's been over $100 million ever since. 2021, we did over 200 million. And now our world's about the same.
I love that analogy. It's like an arrow. You got to pull it back to go forward. I've never heard that one. I really love it. And so Wally, that story with your son telling you that, honestly was one of the real big things that turned things around for me. The first time I heard that story, I forget what event it was, but it was down in Newport Beach. And you told it and you actually teared up telling that story. And that really resonated with me because that was me just on the phone constantly. And, and I had already been through a divorce. So it was like, I lived it, only I didn't survive it, right? You at least survived it with your wife and kids intact. And now I got 2 more kids and a new wife, and I'm successful at it. I hope, at least I keep trying to be. But my first 2 daughters didn't get the best of me. And it's like one of my biggest regrets in life because I was just always on the phone. I was always trying to make another dollar, make another relationship, whatever it might be. So for you guys listening, that I've never believed in work-life balance. And in fact, whenever somebody even told me that, I would just laugh at them and pretty much determine that that's not somebody I wanted working either with me or for me. I needed people with imbalance because I was imbalanced. And now I'm 54 years old and I can tell you that I've honestly come to the realization that this work-life balance thing is a thing. And it's super important. And it doesn't matter how much money you make or how many deals you close. If you can't have a little bit more balance, you're not successful and you're not happy.
Yeah, I would just say, some people, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Dino, but some people are turned off by that word work-life balance, and they feel it's like I don't know, as someone told me the other day, it's kind of like a wussy statement. I don't need work-life balance. And my response back to them was, okay, cool. Let's call it a wussy statement. What if we called it work-life counterbalance? What if when you're with your family, you're truly with your family and you're truly present? You want to go work 15 hours the next day? Cool. Knock yourself out. Go work 15 hours. But the 4 hours that you're with your family, what would it need to look like for you to be engaged for those 4 hours? You need to be listening for those 4 hours. You need to be digesting what they're sharing for those 4 hours. And you're pouring into them where they feel you're making deposits in them as a relationship for those 4 hours. I think anybody listening, that's a great first next step. Great first next step is if you're struggling wanting to have work-life balance, how can you be present in whatever you're doing? It could be playing golf. It could be, to going out fishing or taking your dog on a walk, but just learn to be present in those times. And when I learned to focus on giving my wife and my two sons quality time instead of quantity time, our relationship just went through the roof. I think most loan officers, or most professionals, I guess, or salespeople, well, I spent all weekend with them. No, you were in the same house with them all weekend, but were you with them? You're on the phone here, you're doing this, you work in the garage here. Like, where were you present? What did you learn about it this weekend? And presence in a relationship, especially with your children and your spouse, is by far the greatest gift I've ever learned.
Yeah, it's just to dig a little deeper into that, the 5 love languages. I discovered, and I don't know if it's like this with most people or not, but my top 2 are my wife's bottom 2, and my wife's top, are the opposites. So you had mentioned quality time, not quantity time. And when I finally got a hold of this whole balance thing, and I had a medical issue about 3 or 4 years ago now, and I had double vision for like 3 months, and I ended up spending, I don't know, like over 50 grand in 3 months trying to fix my problem. And I was at all of these different appointments every single day. And for the very first time, my team literally had to handle everything. I didn't do a lot already. All I did was talk to people, but I even had to give that up because I was more worried about my health than I was the business. And lo and behold, everybody did a great job. And when I finally got cured and everything got better, I came back and I told myself I'm going to be semi-retired. And all that meant, it didn't mean financially. It meant that I used to work 60-hour weeks, and I'm no longer going to work 60-hour weeks. I'm going to work no more than 30 hours. And for the next, that following year, I ended up averaging 18 and a half. And I got to say, I really enjoyed it. But going back to your quality over quantity, you're right, because I actually started spending a lot more time at home, and it wasn't as much quality, right? And what happened is my wife finally, I chuckle at this because it is kind of funny. Before I worked too much, and then I was at home too much, and she's like, listen, if you want to figure out how to make things more efficient, do it at the office. Don't do it at my house. She goes, I'm in charge here. You're in charge there. So I found myself spending a little too much time at home, and that actually wasn't as good either, right? So I had to start developing more things for myself that were truly for me and in things that I enjoy, and then figuring out how to spend more quality time with my wife, because that is her love language. So for everybody listening, quality over quantity.
Well, it's also the little things. I mean, if you go if you go out to try to have lunch with your top producing realtor and you're walking up the restaurant, are you going to open the door for that realtor or no? 10 out of 10 times, of course, the loan officer is going to open the door. But we do that because the realtor is going to refer his business, and we dote over them. What I think it was probably like maybe 8-9 years ago, a mentor of mine asked me once, what if you treated your spouse like your biggest referral partner? And it was just a big mindset shift that, like, for instance, Nikki went out last night with her girlfriends. She had dinner, but she was thoughtful enough to make dinner for me and Alex, our youngest son, still at home, before she left. But when she came back home, I had already clean all the dishes, put all the food up, put the rest of the leftovers in the refrigerator, and there was nothing left in the sink. She walked in with like a huge smile on her face that I'm like, well, you made dinner, and I was thankful that you made dinner even though you weren't here. But her love language, her bucket was full because I went the extra mile, not for her to come in from her girls' date night to a sink full of dishes. And it's to do the same thing, treating your spouse or treating your children like if they were your top biggest referral partner.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great way to take on life, because as loan officers, the reality is we go after referral partners. That's how we grow our business, and we give everything to them. I think that's the best way to achieve success in every other aspect of life too. So speaking about other aspects of life, I want to talk a little bit about once you started making money, what did that do to you as a person? Because I don't know if you came from money or not at first. So now all of a sudden you got all this money, or I'm sure a decent amount. And I want to kind of hear a little bit about it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of people, let's just call it loan officers, right? Since that's the category we're in, they start making money, and we've all seen it before. There's been a lot of frivolous spending, right? Where they just spend, thinking that it's going to just continue to come in all the time, no matter what. And then they don't realize that all of these new expenses they have don't change when income drops at certain times. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the other aspect of investments, which I know you have a lot of. So I just wanted to educate people on this. And, mistakes are also an education. So if you've had any of those, and I know you have a lot of wins as well.
I would say, experience is an absolute blessing. And what I mean by that is understanding cycles. So 2007, 2008 happened. I think I was like, 28, 29 years old or so. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. My income was probably somewhere in the neighborhood about 350, almost 400 grand a year. And then the recession thing happens in 2007, 2008. Then it drops down to like 85 grand a year in 2009.
Which, oh, by the way, it's still more than a lot of people were making at a full-time job.
I mean, I went back to kicking an old school in 2009, door knocking, trying to find loans, but the 80/20 580 credit scores were out the window. Those were not around anymore. But I had it. So I made a lot of money in my early, probably 5-7 years in mortgage. 2008 happened, and I didn't lose everything, but I remember, I think my 401k at the time, and I think it was with National City, 401k was like, 167 grand. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I left all the money in there, and it dropped down to like $3,400 because all the National City stock went out the window. And so mistakes like that and not understanding how to position yourself for a market shift. Then 2010 happens, 12, and we start getting back in the groove of things. One thing that I really had a great mentor, probably, I think it was 2013, 2014, advised me that about the 25% rule. And I put it in my book, and, you never want to live your worst month that you ever have in the business. You want your living expenses still to be 25% of that worst month. Whatever, let's say your worst month's 10 grand, you don't want your living expenses more than $2,500. And, having that mindset and looking certain through those lenses. And then you fast forward to 2019. I mean, I broke six figures when I was 19 years old. I broke seven figures when I was 34 years old. And it's been north of seven figures since I was 34, and now I'm 46. So the income has always been high, but I think one thing that I did, really blessed to have a lot of great mentorship over the years was 2019 to 2020, when everybody's income doubled. My lifestyle didn't change a half an inch. 2021 to 2021, when it doubled again, my lifestyle did not change half an inch. But what I did was I bought my first rental property in March of 2013. March of 2013. By the end of 2013, I'd purchased 9 single-family rental properties. The end of 2014, I purchased another 11 single families. I got up to about 45 single family in 2017, and I started 1031 exchanging them to buying apartment complexes. And when 2019 to 2020 happened, I probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100 to 150 rental doors, but I doubled to over 300 rental doors that following year because I started buying more apartment complexes, more rentals, to where now it's like 487 rental doors. So 10 different apartment complexes throughout Texas. And the reason why I'm so focused on that, most people buy investment properties because so they can pay, for the cash flow. I bought more rental properties and more rental properties and more rental properties, especially the class and the class of apartment complexes that I buy, is for the sake of the value add cost segregation, which is the write-offs. So imagine making 6 figures or 7 figures in your mortgage business, but you've got to pay 40% in taxes, or you California folks got to pay 50% in taxes. Well, I have so much of a credit. I mean, it's a large credit with the IRS right now that I don't have to pay any taxes because I've got a credit with them because of the apartment complexes. So to me, I can make as much income as I want in mortgage and pay zero in taxes because of the cost segregation depreciation from the real estate portfolio. And now as a business owner, it's like you're printing money.
So let's talk about the book for a second. Tell everybody, show it. Yep. Tell it a little brief synopsis of it and where they can find it.
Well, the only thing it's missing, candidly, there's all these like reviews of like on the back, and you're not in here. So that's my one regret about writing the book. So maybe that next reprint, I can add your testimony in here.
Consider done.
So it's called 24/7 Mindset. And I built that in 2014 of trying to understand, okay, the lenses I had to start working through is I used to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'd be really proud about that. And when you figure out like, how can you be different, right? To be different, don't try to be better. What if I could flip that around? What would my world, what would my business need to look like that I can go from working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, 24 hours a week, 7 months a year? Why my business still pays me? And I started really understanding, okay, if I build out a team, that how can I replace 25% of my income each month that can come residually from other people's efforts on my team? Okay, the next year, how can I get 50% of my income to come residually from my mortgage team? The next year, how can I get 75% of my income? Then once it got up to over 100% of my income, all I needed to do is keep adding teammates to be able to grow and scale the business. And that's where how do you build a mortgage business that pays you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while you only have to work in it 24 hours a week, 7 months a year came from.
Yeah. And I know you have some groups on social media, right? And various ways that people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So there's if you're on Facebook, there's the private Facebook group. Just go in there and just type in 24-7 Mindset Academy, and the private Facebook group will pop up. We post content in there on a daily basis. There's also a ton of giveaways for the different courses and such. And there's also monthly, bi-weekly webinars that we also do. That's free coaching for loan officers. You just need to pay attention to our page and when we drop that next. And there's courses that I teach. If you go to 24-7mindsetacademy.com, 24-7mindsetacademy.com, and click on the resources. Just click on that. And there's probably like 34, 35 different courses there. Over half of them are free courses. And there's free tools that I provide many, many loan officers out there just to try to make a difference.
Thank you, Wally. I appreciate that. And now that since we're on the topic of books, I want to just kind of rattle off a couple of quick questions and then we can call it a day. I know you're an avid reader, so it's going to probably be hard to pin you down to one book. So let's just call it top 3 if you want. What are your top 3 most impactful books?
The Book of Job, for sure. And the Bible, that's what I've been reading the last probably 6 months or so. Number 1, I'd say number 2, believe it or not, it's super simple, but it really made a huge difference in my life. It was called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it teaches you how to look through lenses of what is the one thing such by doing it makes everything else easy or unnecessary. And once you start thinking that way, it's just the sky's the limit. And if you're asking me the third one, just kidding, I won't say my book. I'd say the third one is there's a book called Traction. And if you ever want to build a business that becomes scalable, and build a business, and when people say, I'm a business owner, okay, awesome. So question, how long a vacation time can you be away from your business and it's still run at the same level? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks? How long? Then if they say, yeah, I could be away from my business all year. Okay. The second question the book teaches is, how long can you be away from your business and it actually continues to grow at the same trajectory that if you were in your business? So Traction teaches you how to build a scalable business that can maintain, if not grow, without you being involved in it. And sometimes with founders, the business really takes off when the founder takes a step back and gets out of that driver's seat. So those are probably the 3 books that really changed my life a ton.
What about a quote? Any quotes that you love?
Quite a few. So there's I'll tell you, if you cut me off when you're ready for me to be done. So there's 3 affirmations I say for myself every single morning. And I've done this since 2011. One is, Wally, what's the point of dreaming big if you're not brave enough to live big? Go grab life big. What is the point of dreaming big if you're not brave enough to live big? Go grab life big. The second one I tell myself every morning is, Rome was not built in a day. However, it was built day after day after day after day after day. Keep building, Wally. And the third one is a mindset I like getting myself into, which is, my questions are piercing, my answers are motivating, my presence is commanding, my success is untouchable. If I can be a great listener, I can ask questions that pierce a person's heart, mindset, whatever. And if I'm really, again, a great listener to what their responses are, then my answers become inspirational. My answers become motivating, which makes my presence so successful in their eyes, which they're attracted to be part of my world. And that's literally how I built the mortgage business.
I love that. Last question for you. If I took you right now and dropped you off in the middle of somewhere where you didn't know anybody, you had all your knowledge, you didn't have really any money, just enough to cover your expenses. Number 1, would you get back in the mortgage business? Number 2, what would you do? How would you get it going in the mortgage business?
I mean, if I have the choice, I would not go back in the mortgage business. I'm madly fascinated and madly in love with the financial advisor space, especially the life insurance focused financial advisors. I feel I could have built a massively huge financial advisor life insurance business. And then the difference with that is it's 100% residual, where 40% of my mortgage business is residual. What that means to most people out there is 40% of every loan. Say if I close 10 loans in a month, 4 of them are coming from my past clients, my database, and you're making an income off that same original relationship that you built. Where in the life insurance financial advisor space, 100% of your income is residual that comes through like automatically. So that's candidly what I would have probably done if I had to do all over again.
Yeah, and you're the only person I asked, would you get back in the business? Because I knew one time you had told me that that's the business you would have gotten into, which I always found fascinating. But let's go now. You're going to be a loan officer. You got no choice. I'm dropping you off somewhere. You're who you are today. You know everything you know, but you can't go buy a bunch of stuff and all that. You got to figure out and be creative. How would you do it? What's the first thing you would do, and how would you get it going?
And my role as a loan officer, my role is not a manager or leader.
You're just a dude whose family is waiting for you 6 months from now. You got to go back home, but you can only get back home if you make a certain amount of money.
Okay. I would do say one thing that I taught a loan officer in our coaching program called Matt Ballmar. And what I would do is what I taught him to do, which was go to a real estate agent, and a good producing real estate agent, one that does $30-40 million a year, and say, when was the last time you connected with your database? If I can call your past clients for you and schedule for you on your calendar, appointments on your calendar to do annual real estate reviews with your past clients, can I earn the opportunity when an opportunity arises that someone needs to get pre-qualified? Can I earn that referral? And Matt came out of the call center space, had no realtor business whatsoever. And once he got into our academy, now he's doing $2.5-3 million a month from calling and doing and setting up annual real estate reviews for realtors. And now he's earned that business and earned those referrals. I would say if I don't have a database and I don't have a list of agents or any relationships, and you put me in, I don't know, Nebraska, that would be the number one thing I would do.
That's a great way to go. At the end of the day, it's going to be hard to go in and create systems and create all this other stuff. The truth of the matter is, when you get going, you just got to come in with some hard work and grassroots, way of doing business. The stuff that really is what got all of us to where we got at some point. Once we started making money and had business, we started creating systems and doing all that. But you got to get started somehow. So my encouragement to everybody is get your butts out there, get yourself on the phone, get yourself talking to as many people as possible. Open up every single door, because you don't know what's on the other side of it. And sometimes it's not even the door that's ready for you, but it's the door that leads to the other door. And that other door is where the riches lie, right? Or whatever it might be that's awaiting you. So, Wally, I know we're out of time, and you got to get going, but at some point I want to bring you back, because we didn't even get a chance to talk about your concierge program and all these other really great things that you do. But thank you so much for coming on, and really appreciate you very much.
Super honored, and sorry to have to run, but yeah, let's get something scheduled, and I'll do everything I can to help.
Thank you. And guys, for everybody listening right now, just know that, here at The Way, our mission is basically to empower, equip, and educate all of you the way lending should be done. And we're taking the best of the best in the United States, and we're finding out how they did it so that you can learn, so that you can avoid all the pitfalls that so many of us had to go through when we got there. So thank you again very much for everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Wally, thank you. Everybody have a good one.